Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV News with JB and ItsBlunty. How are you doing, Blunty?
Doing good, Joshua. How are you doing today?
Today I'm doing really good. Yesterday I was a little stressed out because of apparently running a live stream is way harder than I make it look.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to do I tried to just participate in watching FlowState, and there were some technical issues. We'll be talking about that today on the news, actually. So,
Yeah.
how about you, Blunty? What's
I'm
going
doing
on?
great.
Yeah.
I was gonna watch FlowState, but I figured I know how these live events go. So I was like, I'll just see how it works out, and then start it
Yeah.
maybe a little later. Watch the VOD. So as soon as that's possible, I'll
Yeah.
take a look.
Well, we will talk about what happened and what you should do, and etc. A little later in the broadcast. But what else are we going to talk about? What are some of the highlights of tonight, Blunty, while people trickle into the stream?
One of them is Orqa's got a new radio. So they had a
Oh,
big tease.
very
They had a
exciting.
big tease, and now we're gonna see their new radio.
Ooh, I love it when someone teases me. Yeah, love it even more when it actually pays off at the end.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. Probably the biggest piece of news this week, arguably, is that Evan Turner has won MultiGP championships for the third time in a row. Third time. And
Third
he did
time,
it
not in a row.
Not in a row. Well, come on, Evan. Come on. But he did it while flying Sharkbite, while flying HDZero, and so were several other of the prominent people. We're going to talk about that, look at some of the footage, and discuss what it means. What does it all mean?
Yeah. Also, ExpressLRS 2.0 is in release candidate. So we're going to take a look at that, and hopefully people can go download and check that out, because that's what That's what the release candidate phase is for.
It's so funny. They just keep developing features faster and faster and faster. It's kind of amazing. I wouldn't have thought it was possible.
Lots of stuff.
And we are going to touch on a new firmware for speaking of receivers that suck. We're going to touch on a new firmware from Aloft Hobbies for FreeSky receivers. If you're still flying FreeSky receivers, you're going to want to pay attention to this because they've developed a firmware that supposedly just fixes all the compatibility issues and everything. Wonder why FreeSky didn't do that. That is all coming up and more on the news tonight. But before we get into that, Blunty, can we talk about my drawers? You can't see them because we're in a split screen. Can we talk about my drawers some more? Very newsworthy.
Sure. Let's talk about them.
Oh God! Oh, should have put a, kids, cover your eyes. That's just pornography right there. It's so, look how organized it is. I got dividers today, Blunty.
Nice. Good stuff, man.
Feign enthusiasm. Really oh, thank you. So, feign enthusiasm. Look at all those batteries. They're all divided into sections. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We got that.
Hey, I'm excited for your drawers. Okay.
Oh, one fire. Going to take them all out, says Corey, man. Oh, it's metal. It's metal. Oh, how long is it going to stay like that? Forever? Because I don't fly any of those batteries. Those are all my micro batteries that I never fly, hardly. So, Quad Doc says, so hard right now. I know what you mean. But let's talk about the real news items. And in case you didn't know, in case you're new here, welcome. There are links down in the video description below the video to our show notes, which include links to all of the things and so forth. So if you want to find that, you can go check that out right now as we go through stuff. And the very first item we got to talk about, Blunty, is last night's, it's not a premiere specifically, but it was because it was a festival, and festivals don't count as premieres, apparently. I don't know why. They just don't. The FlowState film, and it was shown at the Golden Gate International Film Festival, which held it virtually, which meant people could stream it. At least in theory, it meant people could stream it, because they couldn't stream it because of technical issues. So we got to talk about that. Where should we start? What do you think?
I don't know. We could talk about that, or go into the Orqa radio.
No, I mean, where should we start? Which aspect of that do you think? I mean, should we start? I guess where we should start is that the reason that it was a total shit show was that there were so many more people trying to watch the film than they had ever experienced before in their history, in their 11-year history. No film had drawn this much attention on the opening night. And that's good. It means our film is popular. Thank you guys. You did great. They said there were 5,000 simultaneous streams in the first 6 minutes. And apparently what happened is on the back end, they were running from AWS, which if you know about Amazon Web Services, you know, I mean, you can run at the biggest website in the world on AWS. You just have to turn a knob to make it more powerfuler. But apparently they had that knob set to a normal amount. And when we all slammed the doors, they thought it was a denial of service attack, and it tripped all these security things, and they shut it down. And there's still, I'd love to be able to say, but everything is fixed now. But apparently they're still, actually, the last time I was given for when everything would be fixed was, I believe it was it 9 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m.? I'm not sure, but it's supposedly tonight. So the takeaway is, if you bought a ticket, the festival director himself got on the phone with me and James and said, we feel bad about it. We want to make sure everyone who bought a ticket gets to see the film. So if you bought a ticket, you are not going to lose your money. You have not missed out. You will get to see the film. That is their promise. And we certainly are going to do our best to make sure that in as much as we can to hold them to that.
6 p.m. PST is the last message I've seen. So.
Okay, great. So that's still 3 hours from now.
Yes.
The viewing extends through the 14th of November, so you have plenty of time to find time to watch it. I wish we could have all watched it together and had a big party, but maybe unfortunately it didn't work out that way. They've even said that if there's additional delays, they would consider extending the festival a couple days to make sure people got to see it. The only other thing I would say is if you are having trouble getting it to take your ticket, if it's saying invalid ticket number, you need to email tech @Golden Gate International Film Festival, TECH @Golden Gate International Film Festival.com, and they will issue you a new ticket, basically. And because some of the tickets got flagged as used, and you could only use the tickets once. So I hope that I am also disappointed that it didn't go off the way we hoped. I'm sure that no one will be put out permanently. Hopefully that you'll be able to watch it, and I am thrilled. If there is a silver lining, it is that some people noticed. They absolutely noticed, and were like, hey, this film is apparently super popular, and I hope it's been a step forward in getting the film distributed. So
also, just so there's a couple of people asking in chat, you can buy a ticket until the end of the day on November 14th. So as long as it'll be up in VODs, you should still be able to buy a ticket and start watching it once it's all good to go.
Yeah, let me just people are asking for that information in chat. So it is the Golden Gate International Film Festival. The website is goldengateinternationalfilmfestival.com. And then if you just can't get it to stream, you just have to wait and try again later. They're working on making that be fixed, but if I just go to Screenings 2021, let's try it right now. Screenings 2021. We go to the bottom of the page, and they've even opened additional rooms, but still none of them are working. I hit screening, and it goes back to the top of the screen. So it's not fixed yet. If you're having an issue where you do get through and it won't take your ticket, it says invalid ticket, that is when you should let's try it in Microsoft Edge. That is when you should contact support. Tech @goldengateinternationalfilmfestival.com. This is the only time to use a Microsoft browser, is when Chrome is effing up and you wonder if it's your browser. Screening. Oh, it's working in Edge. How about that? Hang on. I mean, I'm gonna just try it. I don't care if my ticket number gets out on the internet. It doesn't really matter. Let me just see if it works. Your tickets for the 6th Golden Gate International Film Festival. I'm going to scroll down to the PDF, and here's my ticket number. Let's see if it works. Barcode, login. Oh, sheesh! There it is. It's working. Okay.
I know a few people are able to do that, but then it was like chopping up like the whole time they're trying to buffer it and stuff.
Oh,
so hopefully it's working properly.
All right. Well, switching from Chrome to Edge allowed me to at least put my credentials in. At this point, I have used my ticket. Haha, you can't steal it. And if it gets interrupted, then I can just contact tech and try again. I will not be playing it though. I don't want to pirate my own film. So we will have to wait. But there you go. All right, moving on.
All right. So Orqa.
Next story.
Orqa's got a new radio. They did a tease. We talked about it last week on the news, and this week they showed us what they had. So they have a new beginner-focused radio. So they're bringing out a new radio, and they're aiming it generally at beginners.
Yeah, when Orqa said they had a new product coming and teased it, I thought, well, let's look at the products Orqa has teased and released in the past. Some kind of adapter to let you play video games on your goggles through your phone. And I'm like, hey, Orqa, you know what we want. We want the Orqa V2 or we want the digital HD system. And so when they teased something, I was like, well, it's clearly not going to be those. And when it turned out to be this is not like the worst thing they could have made, is a new controller, Blunty, assuming it's good quality. But they made a really weird decision, didn't they?
Yeah, so there's a couple things here. One is that, so this is meant for a ghost module. So this radio does have a JR bay, but it is not a standard JR or a light JR bay It's what we can discern. I don't think they have an official name, but Uber Lite, since that's the name of the module, that's what I've been calling the actual bay. But it is a smaller version of the JR Lite bay, meant for this slide-in form factor.
Yeah, and they said, oh, it's an advantage because it's flush with the back of the radio. And I don't know about you. I think you agree. I'm like, the last thing the world needs is another gosh darn module standard for people to have to. Right now, we've got the Light Bay and the JR Bay. And that's already, I was annoyed with FreeSky when they invented the Light Bay, but at least it's smaller and fits better on small radios. But this, I don't see a reason for this.
Yeah.
Except,
well, what I will say is, so they've said, and I asked again recently in the last day, just to confirm, they are not going to be supporting anything but this Ghost module on this radio, as this radio is not OpenTX, and it doesn't have a screen. This radio will all be configured over Bluetooth over a phone app that they will design.
Which, okay. Spectrum did that, I think, with the Spectrum DXE. It had a phone app and it didn't have a screen. So I like in principle the idea of releasing a inexpensive, decent build quality, beginner focused radio that it doesn't require complicated setup. But the two choices they made that I am not sure I'm completely on board with are making it Ghost only. Not that Ghost is great. I like Ghost. If I had to pick one control link today, cover your ears, Blunty, it might be Ghost. I know you wish it would be ExpressLRS, if I had to pick one. But beginners, what's wrong with Ghost for beginners? Can't beginners use Ghost?
Well, I think the biggest issue, to me is pretty glaring, is that if you're a beginner and you want to start in the hobby and your only option is Ghost because that's the radio you purchased, then you're going to go look for a quad to get. And you're either going to build, which, okay, you can build and buy Ghost receivers, or you're going to get a bind and fly. And for most users, that's a whoop. You're going to start with your radio, you're going to sim with the radio, and then you're going to buy like a Tiny Hawk or something. And then that is going to be, your next, your step up into the hobby. Yeah. Or you're going to buy a bind and fly, and you're going to buy that you're going to get that with the protocol that you have, whether that be FreeSky or Crossfire or whatever you have now. And slowly, the other protocols are encroaching. But at least on most radios that you have some internal radio option, or your external radio is more supported.
Right.
So I think the big thing for me is I feel like, they're pitching this as hey, I even put a quote in there somewhere in that album just to say, they said, hey, we want to target this for being in Walmart. We want a mother to buy this for their kid, and then their kid to take it home and sim with it, and then they can get into the hobby like that, and they think it's an entry into the hobby.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. Reminds me of that guy on TikTok. I don't know if I'm the only one who sees him. He's like, I like it. Yeah, makes sense. And then he goes, what? Yeah. It's TikTok. It doesn't make sense unless you've seen it.
Loco,
I'm with you.
Yeah, June Loco, I'm just giving an example, because nothing comes with Ghost. There's no whoop you can buy with Ghost. So the whole point of this is just that, what are you going to buy if you're this new user and all you can upgrade to is the Ghost module that you plug in? So this radio is supposed to be basically $89. You get the radio, and that has Bluetooth, and that's kind of what you get, is the radio with Bluetooth. And then if you want to buy the Ghost module later, they haven't announced a price. My guess would be $50 to $70, somewhere in that pocket for the Ghost module that they're going to add in. So in some respects, it's cool to have a step-up solution for a Ghost radio that seems to be solid.
But so this is not a deal breaker though, because all they have to do is have plans to have there be choices for beginners to buy quads with Ghost installed. And that is not an insurmountable challenge. I guarantee you, if Tony Cake went to iFlight, I'm just picking on iFlight because they're one of the big makers, or Diatone of bind and fly quads. If he went to them and said, look, we want you to sell quads with our receivers in them. We're going to give you a great deal on the receivers. And I don't know, we're going to incentivize you in some way. That is a thing that absolutely could be made to happen. You could even just have a special edition that you partner with them on. But currently, I don't think there is a single bind and fly that comes with Ghost in it.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. There may be one or two, but yeah, I was not able to locate one easily, when I looked around. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I get where they're coming from on it, but I just feel like it's strange to bring out this, like, no OpenTX. So one of the things they say is like, oh, OpenTX is a hurdle because OpenTX is difficult for a new person to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that many new people that have stopped because OpenTX was a big hurdle for them. For me, more it's like how to slaughter up the drone and how to do the beta flight, and like there's all the other pieces of it, So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm interested to see how this takes,
The other thing, and the lack of OpenTX is the other thing, and I don't want to sound like I'm gatekeeping, because obviously I hope that I'm the furthest person from gatekeeping in this hobby. I feel like I do a lot to get people into the hobby, but
of course, yeah.
The OpenTX is just the de facto standard for radios and FPV, and it's the same as the argument I make about Mode 3, which I know you disagree with. So we'll see if you agree with me here, which is that if you get into the hobby on this radio, it's not so much that you're going to pick up somebody else's radio and need to know how to work it, but you are going to be locked out from a lot of technical material. If you say, I want to set up a throttle-based timer, OpenTX radio, if I want to set up air mode, whatever you want to do with your OpenTX radio, there is a tutorial out there to help you do it, probably. Whereas with this, it sounds like they're saying, well, either they're going to make some things easy to do, and they're going to make some things impossible to do, and then the only support materials for this radio will be the ones that they make, which, like, I don't know, is there a tutorial out there for how to set up the Orqa goggles? Have they made that?
Well, I don't know, actually.
I don't know.
It's a good point, though. It's a similar idea, right?
Yeah, so if we go to Orqa's FPV channel, let's see what they got. I'm happy to be proven wrong. So release videos, promo videos. Oh, here we go. Settings, buttons, HD DVR, connectors, power module base 2 years ago. Yeah, so 2 years ago, when the goggles basically first came out, they released some tutorial videos and setup videos, but everything, they have only, 15, 20 videos in 2+ years. So they have a user manual, but my point is that there's an advantage to being part of that OpenTX ecosystem, and I'm concerned that they're missing out by going a different direction.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. We'll see how that goes. Let's talk about something more positive. Oh, hang on, you got something?
Well, no, I want to see how it works for people. People are saying like, oh, they should include a sim license and stuff, but Orqa's sim is free. So their whole idea is to get you, hey, buy this radio, and you take this $89 radio home, you Bluetooth it up or sync it up or USB it up to your computer, and then you play our sim, and then it's all one thing, and then you move forward with our system. So,
yeah. Van Leave wants to know why would I advocate for a radio where I can't make content to peddle to Patreon supporters? That's exactly right. If anyone were to release something that was actually super easy to use, I would shit on it, because if it's super easy to use, then no one needs me to educate them, and I lose all purpose in life. That's why I don't do more KISS content, because it's so easy to use and flies so good. That's why there's very little KISS content on the internet. No one needs tutorials for KISS, and no one needs PID tuning advice for KISS, because you just flash it, and don't even flash it, just solder it up. Do you even have to solder up KISS flight controllers? I don't know.
No,
I think you just hold it near your box of parts, and it self-assembles, and it goes and flies itself, and you're Mr. Steel. So that's why, it's not interesting to me. You got it, Van Leave. You nailed it. You were right on the mark. Well done. All right, Blunty. Let's talk about a product that I am excited about, and that is Evan Turner. No, wait. It's HDZero.
Yeah, so MultiGP champs happened. We talked about it previously, and we said, Evan Turner we thought was going to be there with HDZero, and he sure was, including it was Evan Turner and 2 other people, Noical and Leviathann, all flew HDZero. They started like 2 weeks before the event. And Evan Turner came in and won for his third win in MultiGP.
That kid,
pretty cool.
That kid, he's a real winner. He is a real winner.
He really is.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I don't know if you were watching, but it wasn't looking good for him. He lost the first 3 heats. He didn't get he was trying to get in there. So I actually put a link to a video if you want to watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the way, you put a ton of there's several videos down in the show notes in the video description below, including finals, all the HD races, etc. Which one do you want to show though? The
so
big
just that
comeback,
first link
right?
there. Yeah. Well, just that first link there. Yeah, I think is pretty cool. Maybe we can just watch this heat.
Yes, I would love to. So hang on, let me get this up. Here we go. I'm going to assume MultiGP won't copyright strike me. You know, that Radiohead music video we showed last week. I didn't get a copyright strike, but it did get a takedown, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think that company has like an automated thing set up, and that's why.
Well, we're not
Hopefully
doing that
MultiGP
anymore,
doesn't.
for the record. We'll take a chance on
100%.
MultiGP. I can't be getting no copyright strikes. All right, so here we go. Noical has an OSD up on his screen. I was told in the comments that actually was not what he was seeing, that was a glitch in the VRX.
Yeah, there was a firmware mismatch. So it was basically sticking the OSD up, but it was on the receiving side, like on the actual unit at the I don't know what you call the main station or whatever. So
yeah, Mad Max FPV. We're gonna play this video in a second, but I don't want to miss your comment. He asks, how many HD zeros can you race at a time? I believe it's 8 because it just uses raceband channels, essentially. I ask because the pure stability of the signal seems like a huge advantage. And that is true, Blunty. You watch some of the analog heats. Is that in this
You're going to
heat?
see that. Yeah, you're going to see that here. On the right-hand side are your 2 analog pilots.
Off and away, 4 potential champions into the sky here. 2021
Jeez,
MultiGP
that's
Championship.
Propsicle is just
Propsicle looks
unflyable.
to be down with
Engineer
the
is
black screen
unflyable.
now. Heads up, Noical. It looks like
Is that what they're seeing? Oh no, that's got to be worse than what they're seeing because Engineer just can't be in the air.
Center section of the track.
Well, Engineer with the lead out of the high side of the tower.
It just looks unflyable. I mean, he's obviously hanging in there, but
look at this.
Yep. So currently in this heat, we've got Propsicle, Engineer, and Noical. All have won. And they've got to get a second. And the second wins the final.
And what's Evan's position?
Evan has not gotten one. He needs to get one.
Or he's out.
So right now,
or somebody else wins.
Engineer is
it looks like Noical is out. Engineer is still flying.
Champion if he
Propsicle
gets by. Heads up FPV in this moment right
out.
here.
Heads up now.
The Engineer is still up.
One tunnel.
Wow, what a real trial by fire for what an interesting.
Engineer's actually right on him. You could actually see him in that shot of Evan's camera. Then Evan goes down and breaks his lens while Engineer also goes down.
But Engineer also with the wreck.
And then flies through.
Evan flying through with a broken lens.
With a broken
Engineer
lens.
looks like he's fail-safed.
Yeah.
Engineer looks like he's bad RX. He's fail-safe. The stability of the stability of the Sharkbite feed was incredible. Just really hanging in there in a way that the analog was not.
Yeah, when they're pulling that direct video, it's just it's so much better, and you get the HD feed. It definitely proves itself when you watch through these finals and through any of these things. You watch through all the stuff and you can see how bad it was trying to get just at for the pilots and also just for the main center where they're trying to get that feed in, because this is a spectator sport too, and you want to be able to record. You need to be able to record the DVRs to see what's happening and do reviews and see who came in first and all those kind of things. So.
I feel like this is a thing that is often overlooked when people say, sometimes people look at HDZero feed and they say, it's not that much better than analog. And I think that objectively it is. But even if you disagree about that, about the image quality and resolution, the stability of the Sharkbite image, because it's a digital signal, it can be much more stable. And the way it manifests distortion is much more consistent than an analog feed, which is just rolling and scrolling and all over the damn place. It's really impressive.
Yeah, from a spectator perspective, 100%. And I think also from the pilot's perspectives, they talked about that too. Evan afterwards is like, yeah, this is great. I think this is going to be where it's going too. He said something similar to that. So
now, License to Drive makes the point, and we obviously agree, the analog recordings that we saw were from the ground stations, not from the pilot's DVR. But the pilots also were having issues, right, Blunty? You said at one point they stopped the race and tried to figure it out.
I think the main thing was just that they were trying to get the main station to actually get good video from them. So they were swapping channels around to see if they could get the main station to pull better video based on changing the channels. So
I see.
one of the things is like if they can't get good enough video from the pilots, then they can't officiate it properly because they can't tell, they can't go back and do reviews. So
you're saying that the pilots were having relatively clean video, but the main station was having an issue.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about the pilot's video, but I know the main thing they were stopping for was the main station. They were trying to, for a little while, they sat there like trying to go through channels and trying to get it correct, but it never got much better than what we saw there. So
yeah, well, I no matter what you say, anytime you take a chance like this on a new technology, like the first time that they ran Ghost at the Mayhem endurance race, like a 24-hour or 14-hour endurance race, I forget how long it was. Anytime you take a new technology like this to a race, a high-profile race, it is a real trial to see if it's going to just fall apart. And the fact that Sharkbite was used in such a high-stakes environment and held up and was successful in and of itself is a great step forward for it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Brian Malin says it did look fine in person. It just was the main station that wasn't picking it up very well, but it was picking up the Sharkbite fine. So who knows?
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Is it's direct feed, so I think they just were plugging right in there. So there's not a big concern about, you don't have to worry about all the signals and who's got what receivers and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Well, those I've got two of those Sharkbite VTXs, the new race VTXs, the 20mm ones. I'll be figuring out which quad I want to put them in, so I'm looking forward to trying those out.
Nice.
But it does explain, Gregory Hurst, thank you. That does explain how the pilots were able to stay in the air, even though the ground station was dropping out.
Sure.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, there's a lot more footage down in the show notes if you want to check that out. In the meantime, let's move on and talk about ExpressLRS, your favorite topic, Blunty. ExpressLRS?
Yes.
It? Would you say it's your favorite topic?
It's up there for sure. I mean, I just love the pace,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which would you rather talk about with someone over coffee? Cannabis or ExpressLRS?
ExpressLRS, because cannabis is like, it feels like talking about my job still,
I see.
It feels like,
I see.
It feels very much like, I don't know. I could talk way longer about cannabis, but I think ExpressLRS is more exciting for me right now, for sure.
All right. So ExpressLRS 2.0 is here, and the pace of development is, they added a lot of stuff. You sent me a message.
So just a quick disclaimer. So this is a release candidate. Don't show that on stream. The thing I
won't show that on stream.
Yeah, that's why I sent that separate from everything. So
I shouldn't show it on stream?
No, we're just going to talk about it.
All right.
But basically, if you go to the releases page, so we can see that RC1 releases page.
Okay, hang on.
That's the best way probably we can.
Let me get rid of this one that we're not supposed to show on stream. It's just a pre-release notes. That's all.
Yes.
It's nothing like
it's not like crazy.
Oh, what is it? Yeah. Let's see. ExpressLRS releases tag 2.0 RC1. Here you go.
Yeah, so this is release candidate 1. So remember, this is release candidate, not release. So if you're flashing this and you're messing with this, it is possible there's some bugs. This has like been tested a lot, but it hasn't been tested totally. That's the whole point. But basically, if you are interested, it would be awesome if you guys could flash this after we talk about it and you do a little research, because they definitely want people to test this and make sure everything's working properly. So I did that this morning, and it was super easy, so as expected. But a lot of cool changes here, a lot of great changes. And I kind of wanted to run through just a few of them that I thought were really cool. One of them there we see is wide switch mode. So wide switch mode is allowing, finally, we've had a limited number of switches, a limited number of positions on our switches because ExpressLRS sends, those smaller amounts. Well, now there's a new mode called wide switch mode. And this mode will allow you to have either 64 or 128 positions on your switches.
Nice. And it looks like the default setting is 1 2-position switch for arming, which is always going to be aux1. That's standard with ExpressLRS. And then 7, 6 or 7-bit. So either 64 or 128 positions.
Yeah, it's dependent on your telemetry ratio, I believe, is what dictates
the
wide switches mode.
So that's going to change without notification. People should be aware of that. If you had some logic that was based on 128 positions specifically, and you changed your telemetry ratio, it might change to 64. Although it's hard to imagine like an aux switch setup where that difference would really matter. But it will get somebody someday.
Yeah, anything less frequent than 1.8 gets 7-bit, and 1.2 and 1.4 ratios get 6-bit. So,
okay.
And then, so there's also a new Lua. So that's a big thing. I've got a image for you. If you go to the fourth link in our show notes,
Okay.
I've got a link to
this one, the new Lua.
Sorry, yeah, that one. So this is where you'll download that Lua. Actually, sorry, go to the 6th link.
The 6th link, sure thing.
My bad.
Running on
Yeah,
Agent
so
Lite? Oh yeah.
yes.
This is hot.
Well, yes. So so this is one thing you can do with the Lua now. So instead of the base Lua, you can now use Agent Lite, and Agent Lite has all the same features as the base Lua, if you need to. Or there's a new V2 Lua. So if you click on the 5th link, sorry, there's a couple links here.
That's okay.
If you click on the 5th link, you'll see how to get the new V2 Lua.
Okay.
So you want to make sure, if you scroll down here, you'll just click that Lua there, and then you'll go right-click on RAW in GitHub, just so people can see.
Oh.
I think people get confused when they go to GitHub and they don't know how to download a Lua or something. So if you click on the file,
yeah. So what you got to do, hang on, let me zoom out here. What you got to do is go on the GitHub. You're going to go to, where are we going? ELRS.lua.
you just click V2. You want the V2.
Oh, my bad. ELRS v2.lua. And then you have to right-click the raw button and save link as. You cannot just click the raw button. It doesn't work. And if you click the raw button and do right-click save as, it doesn't work because it's trying to save it as a text file. It's so confusing. So confusing and annoying.
So that's temporary. We are in release candidate, so just so you know.
Yeah.
But that's how you'll get the V2 Lua currently.
Yeah. I love that it's compatible with TBS Agent Lite now, just because that's such a cheeky thing to do.
Yeah, they just went through and made sure it was all compatible and all cleaned up for their own Lua and also for Agent Lite and stuff. So yeah, but so now there's in addition to the stuff we saw, there's a ton more features. Model match is finally in. People have asked for model match for a while. There's a Bluetooth joystick mode, so you just set a click and then it automatically broadcasts Bluetooth from an ESP module. And then you can connect to anything Bluetooth.
Because the ESP modules have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, yeah, we got Bluetooth. Great. I mean, there's people out there selling a Bluetooth-based Orqa. There's people out there selling a Bluetooth-based joystick module for, I don't know how much, but
I don't know. I think it's 40.
Orqa FPV.Jr. Looks like it's 24.99 euros. The FPV, 29 euros.
Okay.
So you're saying basically everyone who has an ExpressLRS module, an EP module, has this for this $30 thing for free.
Yep.
Sweet.
Also, so I got a bunch of questions in the chat, which is great. People are excited. So North49RC says, I just reflashed my ELRS gear and didn't see 2.0. You do have to click pre-release on the configurator. There's a little button under your dropdown or above your dropdown. You just click pre-release and then 2.0 will show up. Pacific Northwest says, so the 2.0 Lua from the configurator doesn't work. As far as I know, the configurator is still feeding you a 1.0 Lua. It might give you 2.0, but I believe there's specific directions to download it from the GitHub because you need to do that still. So that would be my suggestion. If you use the old Lua, it will not work anymore. Other big caveat with ExpressLRS v2 is that there is currently no SPI target. So the SPIs are all still 1.0. So because you can't update them, you should not use 2.0 yet. That'll be happening soon. So
okay. Yeah, one of the things that I saw people discussing was if you have an SPI-based receiver, which today is basically just the Happy model flight controller, I think.
I think HLRC has one, maybe.
Do they?
I
didn't know that.
think so. I think there's 2 or 3 of them. Yeah.
How do you, because that code is built into Betaflight, the Betaflight target, when a release comes out, how is that updated, Blunty? Do you know? Is ELRS managing that repo?
I'm not sure who's managing it, but I know it is baked in, and I think they're PRing it, and then somebody's like accepting it basically. I think maybe it has been PR'd but not accepted yet, or it's about to be done.
Is it in the Betaflight configurator?
it basically how it works is if you have the right version of the flight control software, then it automatically selects it for you. And then it uses that receiver protocol automatically. So I don't believe it's either they might have just added it, but I believe it's blank in the configurator when you go to your receiver protocol on the SPX.
No, I think you're talking about the receiver protocol, but I mean when let's say you're going to flash it in the Betaflight configurator.
Yes.
So you go to Betaflight configurator, you pull down happy model, SPI, ELRS, whatever the target is. That is the last time that Betaflight released a dot release, 428. But ever since Betaflight released 428, there's a ton of releases of ExpressLRS that now have not been rolled back into the Betaflight version for this flight controller.
Yeah, I don't think any of them. I don't think they're in configurator. They might be. I think they're all 4.3 targets.
So you got to download them manually.
I believe you're downloading manual hexes for them currently, but Wesley says Phobos, one of the Betaflight devs, is managing it.
It's still its own repo though. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's to me. That's for all the performance related reasons to get an SPI based ExpressLRS receiver. It feels to me like that is a big downside. Is that you're relying on, you just have to go to this GitHub repo to get this custom firmware instead of just flashing through the configurator. And you're relying on this single point of failure, no offense to Phobos, for incorporating those changes. Like, for example, can I download, if I have a happy model receiver with SPI, you just said I can't get RC of ExpressLRS 2.0. If I want to try that out, I'm just out of luck. So, not really relevant.
I think I'll have one available soon, but yeah, it's similar to the other things we talked about where there's that delay because we have to wait on somebody to custom make it. So
all right, well, let's move on, Blunty, if that's all right. One of the best operating systems if you're trying to run ExpressLRS is EdgeTX. We covered the big news recently that EdgeTX had upgraded to 2.5, which is, I've sort of made the call that EdgeTX is ready for prime time. My radios are on EdgeTX now, yay. And we have some big news about the EdgeTX development team.
Yeah, so EdgeTX has started basically an open collective, a group fund, and they have announced partners. Flysky and Radiomaster have announced to be official EdgeTX partners. And basically what that'll mean is they'll directly support the radios, talk directly to manufacturers. They'll give them priority bug fixes, make sure that nightlies and releases are all working on the hardware and stuff. And basically in return, those companies will supply devs with a reasonable number of the handsets or whatever they need. And then they'll also provide a monthly or annual donation that they'll agree on. And they'll provide any technical information to make sure they can help support it. So essentially, it's just like, hey, give us a little money so that we know you care and you're going to be in this. Then we'll make sure we support your stuff and you can use our logos, and your radios can come with EdgeTX. So
yeah, hold on a second. I have to pause, Blunty. People in the chat are freaking out about. Some people are freaking out about the 1,000 ruble donation. One person said, I could buy all my dream quads with that money. 1,000 rubles is about $15 US. So thank you for the donation, Sergey Romanov. I don't know how much 1,000 rubles is if you're Russian. Maybe it's like $1,000, in which case, massive thank you. But people in the chat are freaking out like someone made $1,000 donation. I assure you, I would stop the whole stream and freak out myself if I was $1,000 donation. So if I'm not freaking out, it's not. That's why. Anyway, speaking of money, Blunty, I think that's the big concern with this EdgeTX partnership. I remember when I found out that one of the OpenTX devs had been hired to do consulting or development work for FreeSky. And then later, there were some decisions made by the OpenTX project, which seemed, some people interpreted them as being beneficial to FreeSky and harmful to some of their competitors. And there was an appearance of a conflict of interest. Let's just say it as neutrally and charitably as possible. So now we've got this situation where the EdgeTX devs are receiving money. Are they getting donations? Getting hardware, I think, is just standard. You need hardware to test. Are they getting money?
Yes. Part of the requirements is, provide a monthly or annual donation agreed upon by the EdgeTX team to help defray the cost of online build systems, events, and other administrative expenses. So I believe it's going into an open collective account. I think that's the same thing FPV out club does as well, where it like
Yeah.
all goes into a fund, and then the group members can decide how to spend that fund. I believe that's how it works.
That's better than them paying a specific person who can then just cockblock the entire project. I mean, that's so when I first heard about this, my first reaction was, yeah, okay, you know, people, open source developers doing valuable work, manufacturers actually kicking something in instead of just taking their work. And I mean, despite the fact that most of the time open source developers are completely fine and happy with companies making money off their stuff. They just do it because they want to. It's nice when companies actually kick back and pay their share. At the same time, if it ends up with preferential treatment or anti-competitive practices, that becomes a real problem. And I guess we just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think how it's presented here and what the initial deal looks like, you know, it seems like it's positive and it'll be positive for the whole community. But yeah, it remains to be seen like where everything goes. You know, we'll just have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, L. Leston says, does that mean EdgeTX won't support FreeSky radios? Right? That would be a problem. That would be a problem if they suddenly stopped supporting FreeSky radios for no good reason. That would be a problem.
Sure.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, the indications are that none of that will happen, but we will keep an eye on that and let you know if it does.
Yeah. And then someone will fork EdgeTX into something else. I don't know. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, we've got a PSA from Mr. E about the Runcam Nano 3. And I think it might explain, Blunty, why some people seem to love the Runcam Nano, and I have never liked it because it might not be the same camera.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a heads up.
It's unfortunate how bad the difference is. I'll say that. So Mr. E shot me a message, and he actually identified 3 versions of this camera. He was able to locate 3 different board layouts, and they all seem to provide a small difference in image quality. However, there is a new version that seems to have the large difference in image quality.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look on the right, these are the new cameras that are shipping on the right, and this is not just one. I've heard of five-ish of these cameras, all out of different batches, that are having this same the problem.
Gosh, yeah, this is bad.
Yeah, it is quite bad.
It's almost like the lens has a problem.
That's what I said. It's like, but being out of multiple batches and those lenses aren't really replaceable, what do you do? You know, and it does. See. If you look, the color profile is actually better in some cases. I agree.
That's what I thought. When I first saw it, I was like, I actually like this color better. It's less contrasty and has a little more detail, but it's super hazy and washed out as if the lens was.
So a couple of these shots in here are also from Doc. I just want to give him a shout out as well. But yeah, these guys have kind of been digging into this, and it seems like it's a trend now. So I would expect if you get one of these cameras, it's very possible you might get one of these hazy versions. So.
Takeaway: don't buy the Runcam Nano.
I don't know that I would after seeing that. That looks pretty rough to me.
What would you buy if you instead?
Ooh. Something that small, it's hard, right? Maybe a used, if you can find a used or old Runcam Nano 3, that's maybe where I would lean.
Is there nothing that competes with the Runcam Nano 3?
At the same weight, no. I think the big concern there is weight. So if you're using a Nano 3 typically,
it's pretty small.
You're shooting for that low weight.
No, okay. Well, there you go. Oh, the Beta FPV CO1 Pro. There you go. That's what we should get. I don't know. The Nanohawk camera. There's not a Cadex? Like a baby Cadex or something? Disappointing.
So I'm sure some people will have some comments. Cadex Ant, somebody says. I've heard mixed reviews
Predator
on
Nano,
that one.
Cadex Ant, Cadex Turbo, Newbie Drone BI. Cadex Ant is the closest option. I knew there had to be something. All right. Oh yeah, that's close. It's not going to be the same weight though. You can see it's got the metal cover and lens mount, which
when you typed in Ant, it said Ant Lite. Is there an Ant Lite? Yeah, that's at least better.
Is that the one? Oh, that looks real close.
Yeah,
that looks, and it's an oh, there you go, sold. It's the FPV Cycle Edition. Bob Ruge endorsed it. It's probably not crappy if Bob Ruge endorsed it. Edoc points out the Ant Lite is okay, but not as good a latency and heavier. 0.6 gram difference between the Ant and the Runcam Nano 3. Runcam Atom exists but is awkwardly shaped, EDOC points out. And the Caddx Baby Turtle is the other one. Caddx Baby Turtle Whoop Edition. That's not right.
Oh, that's a heavier boy.
That's huge. That's huge. That's not a competitor. All right. So, Caddx Turbo
PSA.
EOS 2. That I think I liked that one. I was in one of the quads I reviewed once upon a time. All right.
So there's that PSA. We've got actually one more PSA for you today. Beta FPV, surprise, surprise to many of us. Not really. Sorry, but it just keeps happening. Beta FPV sent a guy a quad. He burned it up by accident. He didn't know what the heck happened, but they were like, okay, we'll send it back. Or, okay, we'll send you a new one. Don't worry about it. So he got his new one, and he gave it a little inspection before he flew it because he was wondering, hey, is this going to blow up on me?
Yeah.
And he found
this is what he found.
Images that were, we're seeing the images here. They are clearly sending these quads with too long a motor screws.
Yeah, so to be clear, this is not a one-off thing. It's a two-off thing. The very first quad, he had burned up a motor, and he just thought he was unlucky. The second one, he found these screws touching the winding. So I have asked Beta FPV about this, and they said, oh, please put us in contact with the guy. We'll totally help him out. And, of course, they did. To be fair, I have certainly heard stories from people who didn't have a YouTube influencer on their behalf who did not get such great treatment. But of course, I can't speak to things like that because I didn't experience them myself. But I said, well, that's great, but you already took care of him. Can you tell me whether this is a one-off thing or whether this is an ongoing thing? And I haven't gotten an answer from them yet.
And their answer
at the
no,
time of air.
They don't do quality control.
I would assume that, which quad was this, Blunty? Do you remember?
I mean, there's clearly...
Was it a 95X? 85X HD.
85X HD. We can objectively say that they do not have QC on this quad. Nobody flew this quad.
If they had even test fluid, it would fry. Yes.
Nobody flew this quad.
Yes.
So it's so upsetting.
So if you have a beta, this is why I wanted to do this piece, not to shit on Beta FPV, which I don't really need an excuse to complain about their QC. I do it all the time. But just to say, if you have a Beta FPV 85X HD and you haven't flown it yet, for God's sake, inspect it and check your damn screws.
Or if you order any quad from Beta FPV, just inspect the quad before you fly it. Make sure the screws are right. Make sure it looks put together properly. Make sure the wires are connected. Like, I've seen a lot of things happen on these quads. So
yeah,
just for your own benefit.
Who is it? Bad for Life points out that they should put the name Beta in their company name. With quality like this, it's Beta FPV. They told you it was. They didn't say it was Release FPV. They said it was Beta FPV. So what do you want? Anyway, this is a pretty big F up. If this guy wasn't just a one-off who got unlucky, this is a huge mistake. So, MC's Creation says that's why I wouldn't trust Beta FPV's ExpressLRS radio.
Yeah, if this was just one random guy emailing this in and it wasn't Beta FPV, we would not show this. But it's Beta FPV, so I know why this is happening.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
So heads up on that one. All right, moving on. Blunty, what's next?
Time for controversy.
Everybody boy,
ready?
We need a little controversy because it
ready.
feels so empty without me.
Eminem is coming up a lot in the drone world recently. All right. So a drone has, quote unquote, attacked, it's a likely drone attack, on the U.S. electrical grid, aka a small substation. And basically what happened is, just a quick summary, some guy flew a Mavic drone that he had ripped the camera off, serial number off, and SD card out of, manually, clearly piloted because there was no camera. That he basically manually piloted that into a substation, though they found it outside of the substation, but it was in the vicinity. It had crashed on the way in. And then it basically had a piece of copper wire hanging from two pieces of twine under it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying this was an attack on the U.S. electrical grid, and the FBI is calling this like, all kinds of this and
drone
that.
related terrorism.
Yeah, drone related terrorism. Yeah. I think most of us who've flown a drone know there could be 100 different options or reasons this could happen. However, it is strange that, like, why are you flying it with no camera? That's a little odd.
Yeah, the first thing I saw was people saying, I think it was a drone retrieval attempt. And as tempting as it is to just say, oh, those guys are dumb and overreacting, I mean, I think that argument is... I think that's the evidence may not support that. Of course, we're being shown the evidence that they want us to see. We don't know if there's other evidence. But it's also worth pointing out that any other evidence they might have might support their story, and they're just not telling it for whatever reasons. So whether you believe this or not, I mean, like, flying, why would you have a Mavic with no camera, no serial number?
Yeah.
It's just that's your drone retrieval rig. Actually, that makes some sense. If you had a drone retrieval rig, you might lose it too, so you wouldn't want it to have a serial number. But it would have a camera.
Sure. Yeah, I think, the camera is kind of important for that. I mean, you can LOS, but most of the time when you lose a drone, it's somewhere you can't see, and you're trying to retrieve something you can't see. So, it's really weird. There's a copper wire at the bottom, so obviously, like, that's pretty strange. But, I don't know. It could be to me, this just seems like, hey, some random people are fucking around at the substation. But everything... like this becomes, hey, it's an attack, because what's the goal of this if this is an attack, right?
Well, yeah,
like, what are you actually doing?
Hello FPV points out that copper wire would just burn in half and have no real effect. The point is not that whether the attack was, I mean, obviously it would be worse if there was an attack and it was likely to cause a huge catastrophe and almost succeeded. That's worse than if there was an attack that failed and wouldn't have done anything bad in the first place. But either way, someone is trying to... I hesitate to even call it an attack. I think there's a fair chance it's just some dumbass who got up to some BS.
I think it's people fucking around. Yeah.
But Madstech thinks someone bought a drone, it was broken, and they just decided to try and blow the drone. He thinks the drone was the target, not the substation.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think most people saying, like, hey, this is way more voltage and amperage than any, nothing's actually going to happen.
For some reason, I don't know why. I'm still talking to you.
YouTube being weird?
It's coming back. It just came back. The government doesn't want us talking about this, Blunty. I just had a glitch in the live stream. Let's make sure that everybody is back. Oh, I think we're back.
All right, it's back.
Yeah, it just said reconnecting for a second. Damn it. See? You talk about this, the government tries to shut you down, Blunty. The takeaway, I think, is that the significant takeaway is not related to this specific incident, but the government's belief that drones can be used as a threat, which is not entirely unfounded, which should also not be read as me supporting all their overreach and overregulation. But when the government says drones are a threat and can be used to do bad things, they aren't wrong.
No, it's 100% correct. It's just like, it's just annoying because this is the bad headlines we talk about. If there's going to be bad headlines that affect anything, it's going to be a headline like this because it's put out by a federal government agency. The FBI has released a report, and now ABC's got it, and it's spreading around. CNN did a story. So these are the kind of stories that people will actually hear. And the problem is the headline isn't there's no interpretation because the FBI called it an attack. So now
the news is just going to repeat what the FBI says, because drone attacks power grid is a statement that they have to decide how to interpret the incident. But if they just say FBI claims drone attacked, then now they're off the hook and they've got their headline.
Here, one thing I'll say is and this is a couple of people are Pacific Northwest says it was the feds who flew it in. Yeah, but wouldn't they have used something that would have actually done something? That's what I always think is if you were going to false flag this or whatever people are going to say, you would just actually do it with a real thing that would hurt something. So then you can go, a drone attacked a substation and blew it up. Holy shit, we got to lock this shit down,
Charles says the story's fishy, believe nothing of what you hear. And if you assume that's true, you can still take away from this story that the FBI is willing to go public and say a drone attacked a power station, which is a thing that has implications in and of itself, whatever you believe about the attack. So,
also, just to bring it up, I did dig for this, and asked other people about it and dug. But this story, this report does not appear to have been public. It appears to have been given privately to ABC, and then they released like a small section of that report. Yeah, I wanted to go in. Well, I think they put it out, and then part of it got out to other people. But I was hoping to get that report so we could do what you're talking about. Like, let's go look at what the actual report said, so we can at least see the FBI spin, not FBI plus news and everybody talking about it spin. So
yeah, it's why I hesitate to. I mean, this is a situation where you don't know what you don't know, and I don't want to give law enforcement or the government the benefit of the doubt and say, well, they're probably telling the truth, because we know that a lot of time they don't. But at the same time, I don't want to just be like, they're so full of it. They're making this up, because I am aware of situations where there was additional evidence that was withheld for security reasons or investigatory reasons. And they say, this thing happened and it was an attack. And what they're not telling you is, there was another drone nearby that was loaded with C4 or whatever.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
ABC specifically said it was heavily redacted, I think.
Right.
So, they only got small bits. So
anyway, there's lots of threats out there in the world. Drones are not the only one. Bad people will do bad things with whatever they can accomplish their ends, and drones are one of those things. So there you go. Yeah. Keep that. We know what we need, Blunty, is we need a film out there, a documentary about FPV to counter some of this negative press.
Sure.
All right. Moving on, Blunty. Speaking of drones that might explode. How you like that segue?
That's a good one. Yeah, let's talk about the hydrogen drone. So, company Doosan has released a hydrogen drone that they've been touring around and trying to get people to bite. I figure we could kind of talk about this because I've never seen a hydrogen-powered drone. This actually works similar to, I believe, like a electric or a hydrogen-powered car. So it literally takes tanks of hydrogen. That second link has a video of them just talking about it, but the big thing is he's just holding a tank of hydrogen the whole time they're talking, pretty much.
Seems... I was going to say seems risky, but I guess it better not be.
It's interesting. Well, that's the whole thing is part of the reason I think we haven't seen cars shift is because one, is the danger, and two is availability, right? So it's like finding the hydrogen. When I did some research into this, if you want to go get hydrogen, like as a person, like at a refilling station, the only places are in California, and there's like one, I think in Michigan or something. Mm-hmm. But otherwise that's, that there's no other options for that.
Well, I thought that hydrogen cars, they went out of their way to build the hydrogen fuel cells in such a way that you don't have to just load your car up with liquid hydrogen like it was propane gas. But that seems like what he's got is a giant dewar of hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, that he's just going to pour in the drone or something.
Yeah, I think it just screws into the side there.
I know you can't pour liquid hydrogen, chat. Thank you. So it's just like a freaking propane cylinder that screws into the drone. Am I crazy here? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, that's what it is pretty much. I don't know. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. You can make hydrogen obviously at home if you want, but it takes quite a bit to make a lot of it. And you've got to have it all set up, and obviously there's the danger of explosions and gases and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. They talk about, I think they can do like a 10-pound. It's like a 10-pound load for 2 hours or something. So it's quite a bit of carry on that drone.
Yeah. Strange choice, though. I mean, it makes you wonder why aren't you using like just a gasoline engine, as we've seen some hybrid powertrains? Why hydrogen? And the answer is usually sustainability, whatever. But I guess I'm talking myself around to it, because for sustainability and green energy, you would use LiPos. But LiPos, of course, have disadvantages, and you want a liquid-powered engine. But you don't want to use gasoline, so you use hydrogen? Yeah, fly that into a substation, says Jeff Hendricks. There you'll get some sparks. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice.
All right.
Maybe we'll see more of these going forward, and we'll be like, hey, remember Blunty did it first.
All right. So another cool thing with drones lately, we've talked about the Alauda airspeeder before. The epic Alauda airspeeder.
Where they fail-safed their FreeSky, where they were flying a giant man-sized drone on FreeSky R9 and had it set to the wrong region and fail-safed it, and then it just flew into controlled airspace because it didn't shut down when it fail-safed. That one?
Yes, exactly. You got it. So they've been back at the drawing board for a while. They've been working on this for a hot minute, and their airspeeder league is kicking now. They've finally got an airspeeder league going. So they are doing races, and what we're seeing here is a drag race, the world's first technically drag race between full-size drones.
Wow.
And they have teams that are their employees. So that's the way they're legally allowed to do this. And they are like running races with their employees so they can prove the system basically. And obviously nobody's in these. This will be unmanned racing for a while. Even the league will be unmanned, but they're doing, just a lot of testing for these like full-size drones. So
Nice. I like the prop. The drones didn't look like they were going that fast. I mean, maybe that's just a trick of perspective.
I think it's like 180 kilometers an hour or something like that.
That's not slow.
Yeah, that's 111 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's fast. Were they weren't manned though, were they? Were they actually manned?
No, none of these are manned.
Yeah, okay. Just
ability to be manned way in the future is the idea, I think.
Yeah.
So
well,
they're manned.
So it's kind of like
and
X class in that they're building it big to be impressive.
Yes.
MC's Creation says they should flash their R9 receivers with ExpressLRS.
Yes. Hopefully they've taken care of that. Let's really hope that they've taken care of that.
I'm sure they did. Nice.
Yeah. So good to see them doing something successful. Everything's working out over there. Hopefully they'll keep pushing.
Yeah. Our second to last story pertains to one of my favorite topics, which is crapping on FreeSky receiver firmware and compatibility issues. And a main reason I do that is that I spend a lot of my day helping people deal with those issues, and eventually I got tired of it. Not helping people, feel free to email me and I'll try to help you with your problems. Just tired of FreeSky making these decisions. There's how many different variants are there, Blunty?
The main variants, well, I guess there's technically, there's ACCST 1 and 2, and then there's EU for both of those firmware. So I think
EU
there's
versus
four,
FCC.
Yeah, I think there's four main like ACCST firmwares that are like the big concern for people, because you could be on any of those, right?
And you've got D8 versus D16 as well.
Sure. Yeah, D8 should work. I believe D8 will bind regardless of your ACCST version.
That is true. But you've got those four versions. You've got your region, which is EU versus FCC, and you've got your version, which is V1 versus V2. And part of the problem is that FreeSky is currently shipping receivers with different firmwares. So the XM Plus is shipping with firmware 2.1, but the RXSR is still shipping with firmware 1.9. And which means there is no single firmware version that you can have on your radio that is guaranteed to work with all sold receivers without having to flash the receiver to update the firmware, which is a pain in the ass. So Aloft Hobbies, people may not know who they are. They're not one of the bigger stores, but they are an FPV store, and they've released a universal ACCST firmware.
Yeah, I believe Aloft is the official U.S. service dealer.
Correct.
For FreeSky.
So when you send a FreeSky radio in for repair, you would send it to Aloft, and they would fix it and send it back to you.
Yeah. So they decided, hey, let's just try to work on this and fix this. So that's what they've done. They've been beta testing this for a while, and they have built a version of the firmware that, regardless of what is on your TX, whether you have EU or FCC, V1 or V2, if you have this firmware on your receivers, you'll be able to flash. You'll be able to bind regardless.
Yeah, because what you just said, Blunty, flash. There's a catch, isn't there?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't just flash this to your FreeSky receivers and then forget about the version problems. It is only available on a receiver made and sold by Aloft Hobbies.
Yes. They said that they're also going to offer a plan where you can mail in your receivers. So like you desolder 8 quads worth of receivers, you ship them for $10 or $15,
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
then they'll flash them all for you for whatever fee, and then send them back. But unfortunately, this is currently only the X8R for receivers. So I think this is more aimed at like plane style receivers.
Wait, it's only I didn't know that. It's only the X8R?
Yeah, they're getting very close to the official release for the first firmware, which is the X8R. Yeah.
That's way less interesting than I thought the story was going to be. I wish I'd have known that.
Brandon, my
That's not
understanding
really
is because
Yeah.
they're fixing it because Aloft is the dealer, and so they're like, hey, we're tired of dealing with this, and they got up with FreeSky, and they're like, well, let's do this. So any dealer will be able to get this. So there's 4 major dealers across the world, from what I'm hearing. There's 3 in different regions, and there's one in the U.S., which is Aloft. So they'll all be able to flash this and burn it into the receiver. Apparently, there is some kind of bootloader burn-in process, because they were saying once you get this, then you could switch back and forth between old and new firmware receivers, and you can also flash updates from them. But you cannot do this unless you have this burn-in happening. And they said they don't want to release it because of all the clone receivers, and if they released it, the clones would have it as well, and then that wouldn't benefit it, FreeSky. And because they're a FreeSky dealer, I think they have to look out for that. So.
Right, they have to look out for. So they're kind of trying to help mitigate the problem, but they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them, and that's fair.
I got to be honest with you. To me, like looking at everything that I'm seeing here from what they're doing, it seems cool, but it really seems like a solution to alleviate headaches by dealers, right? Because if you cared about the user experience, you would just provide the firmware.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, they paid money to develop it, and it sounds like they want to recoup some of that money or make a profit. I don't know how much. A lot of times people overestimate the amount of profit that's in a project like this. It's more hassle than it's worth. But
yeah,
they certainly are looking out for their own interests first and their customers second. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But Ghost Branch FPV in the Discord points out, wouldn't it be nice if there was a firmware you could put on your radio that would bind to both V1 and V2? Oh, there is. It's the multi-protocol module from Pascalanger that comes in the Radiomaster and many other radios. Could bind to both. So it's really only FreeSky radios and FreeSky customers who will benefit from this the most.
Yeah, and I would guess the reason they're not going to do a TX is because they're expecting it's easy to sell you new receivers. It's not as easy to sell you a new radio.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. Well, good guy Aloft Hobbies, nevertheless, although there are still some caveats. The real fix is to stop buying FreeSky receivers and go to ExpressLRS. Or, and you say, well, the main downside of ExpressLRS is, despite the best efforts of the devs, it's still a little more complicated to flash than some other things, but not FreeSky. It's easier to flash than FreeSky. So,
very true.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
All right.
Or get a
Last but not least,
module.
we gotta end this with the rant, right? We can't not end with the rant.
Yes.
So, all right, let's talk about it. Today, my gripe. So there's a lot of flight controller manufacturers. There's a lot of ESC manufacturers. There's a lot of wiring diagrams in general that go around the hobby. And I would like to put out a please make them better, I guess, is the best thing I can say. Is, as someone who spends a large part of the day, like helping people troubleshoot, on and off all day long, and having to look through these manuals and wiring diagrams, as someone who does this all the time, you start to learn what's wrong. Like, you start to learn where to find it in this like weird version of the manual that they've built. And you it's not intuitive where it's at, or it's like backwards, or like you've learned that, oh no, UART 2 and 5 is swapped on that manual because that's the ones they printed. I think that's a Mamba. There's a Mamba stack like that.
What is the?
I think it's a Mamba.
There was a DAL-RC F405 where the TX and the RX on UART 3 were swapped. Rotor Riot sold it for a while. And if it wasn't documented anywhere, you would just think that UART 3 didn't work. And somehow someone figured out that they were swapped, and then I remembered it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and they didn't fix it. They released multiple versions of that board and never fixed it.
That's the problem. That's the whole freaking problem here. It's like you identify this issue, then you put out notice somewhere, like on everywhere that sells it. Tell your your wholesalers, like, hey, put this on your page. Paste on the top that like this is the new thing. We sent the wrong thing. We're sorry. Or hey, these are swaps. Please let people know. It shouldn't be up to like random members of the community to like have PSAs to let people know that like yours in the wrong place.
I mean, that is literally my entire career right now. So I don't know if I feel too. I'm not liking this rant anymore.
Rest assured,
I have a rant. Manufacturers, please continue to make shitty documentation that confuses all your customers because it's made me successful. Who's doing it right, Blunty? Let's throw some positive vibes. Who's doing it right? Who's doing a good job?
Let me think about that for a minute. Well, when they're right, I think some of the diatone diagrams are good. One thing,
I agree.
like, I'm trying to think of who, like, specifically I have. Maytech has good ones.
Maytech has good diagrams and good documentation.
Yeah.
What I like about Maytech and Diatone is that they are very consistent and complete. Every Maytech board, every Diatone board. The problem with Diatone is they have so many boards that are like, this is the Diatone 123 Mini, and it's the Diatone Mini HD, and it's not always easy to tell if you're looking at the right product.
Also, their website is terrible for actually finding the diagrams. Like if it's not on the page for the flight controller, then it's like you're searching through some weird drop down, like that's in sections. Yeah, I've been there 100 times and I still don't know how to find anything.
Yeah, it's organized very badly, but their diagrams are good. Yeah, Maytech's organized well and their diagrams are good.
Yeah, one thing I'll also mention is that I've noticed on some of those Mamba diagrams, they like don't make sense. Like you still have to change a setting that they don't really show you. So they'll like have an RX line that's not inverted on an F4, but then they'll run both S-Bus and the Crossfire to that. So then you know one of those is not going to be right, but I don't know by default what you set it to or how it's going to be, Those kind of things are really annoying too. TBS has great manuals. All the TBS manuals are excellent.
And they've gotten, it used to be that TBS manuals were often a little out of date, but they've actually gotten super on top of updating them lately and have been doing a great job. iFlight, I wasn't sure if you were going to call them out. They have a Google Drive that has CLI dumps, wiring diagrams. They have one of the most complete and comprehensive, and it's all on a Google Drive, so you don't have to go dig through their website or anything. You can find it all there. It's pretty good. Yeah. The thing about iFlight that bugs me, iFlight, if you're listening, they have wiring diagrams for their board. So they'll say, for 4 different receivers, here's how to wire it up. F port, S-Bus, FlySky, Spectrum. And I'm like, can I just have a pinout diagram? I have to just look at their wiring diagrams just to figure out what pad is this that I'm looking at. And I wish that their manuals had just a pinout diagram in addition to their wiring diagram, but it's a small thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Cool.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Well, yeah. I wish there were more better manuals, and hopefully there will be. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of bad ones still, so there's plenty of stuff to keep you in a job.
Yeah. Holy Bro. A long time ago, Holy Bro hired me to write the manual for some of their flight controllers. Those were good manuals.
Yeah. If you want proofreading, I don't want to write a manual, but if you want proofreading, I'll help whoever wants to reach out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one thing I think I would like to see a lot more too, is just proofreading in general, of like, hey, pay somebody a few bucks to like look this over and then find the 4 errors that everyone will see as soon as you release it.
Yeah. Someone who speaks, if assuming the manual is written in English, hire a native English speaker. Go a long way. But all right. Well, we're gonna get a couple of these super chats read, and then we will finish up for the evening. Sergey Romanov, thanks for 1,000 rubles. I'm afraid that in the future, the FAA, and then in our country, presumably Russia, will oblige all pilots to be bound to remote ID. In this case, you won't even be able to fly in those small corners of the big city. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, Sergey? Remote ID right now, even if it is implemented exactly as the worst comes to pass, enforcement is sporadic and the effect is, I mean, how are they going to find you if you're not broadcasting? A lot of people say, and then they say, we'll just do what we do. I feared when remote ID first was proposed that they were going to block parts at the border. And it doesn't seem like that is still on the table. So in some ways it could be worse, but it could be better. And I'm not sure the way to make it better other than to just be like, well, I guess I'm just going to do the best I can.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're just going to see how it all shakes out. And then hopefully we have, the RDQ lawsuit. Hopefully that goes okay.
Yeah. Still waiting to hear the updates on that.
I think they do arguments in December, so.
Yeah. Mikey FPV, thank you for $5 Canadian. Mikey's having some trouble with the film festival. If you're getting the invalid ticket message, Mikey, email tech, TECH, at GoldenGateInternationalFilmFestival.com, tech at GoldenGateInternationalFilmFestival.com, and they will reissue your ticket and take care of you. Apologies for the inconvenience. Fish FPV, thanks for $10. Thanks so much for helping me in the past and for all you do. Keep up the good work. FlowState was amazeballs. I'm so glad, Fish FPV, that you got to watch it and that you loved it. I hope that over the next, until the 14th is the last day, and they may extend that if they continue to have trouble. But I hope that you'll be able to see the film, and eventually I hope you'll be able to see it on your favorite streaming service. We are. Can you still buy tickets? Yes, you can. Default Penguin, you can. Although, to be honest with you, at this point, if you haven't bought a ticket, I would probably wait till you are sure that you will be able to watch it. Supposedly, they're going to have the last of the issues fixed by 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Blunty.
Hey.
Apparently, you're not okay with people saying bad things about FlowState on their stream.
Nope, that's an inaccurate representation.
I just heard that you didn't like that.
Yeah, that wasn't the rub.
You don't have to.
Yeah. We can get into it if you want, but
it's up to you. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I got a message last night saying, "Hey, can you talk to Blunty? I don't want to be banned. I don't want to be banned."
Yeah. Just
Anyway.
all I'll say is I started with the timeout. So you know how there's a timeout and then you can come back
in
300 seconds. And then they came back with 2 more accounts before the
no.
timeout ended. And they kept saying stuff. And then all 3 accounts got banned.
Yeah, no. If no matter what, if I time you out or kind of knock you back and you come back with an alt account and keep going, you're done. You're done. That's you could disagree all you want. You know what else gets you insta-banned, Blunty?
What's that?
Shouting political slogans that are supposed to be sneaky in my chat.
Also.
Yeah. Okay. Bork, thank you for a $5 super chat. It's all good, man. It's all good. I think there were some tensions were high. And I had no hard feelings and no need to apologize. I guess I get a little triggered when people when we're both sad and pissed off about something and then you blame me for making it happen. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I guess I get a little triggered and don't like that. So some people were mad at me that the website was having problems and blaming me. And I was like, oh, you probably saw it. And I tried to be the bigger man, but didn't 100% succeed. So.
Well,
all right. I'm going to send you a $5 super chat, Borked, and I'll apologize back. All right. We are out of here, guys.
All right. Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Later.
Bye, everybody.